Okay, here we go. This is lecture 12 called Use Encryption Wisely. It kind of picks up exactly where we left off last time, where we talked about ECD, remember, electronic codebook, that kind of stuff. Kind of short. Okay, so using encryption wisely. Says encryption provides us what's called a false sense of security. So just because we got a lock on this door right here, does that mean we're more secure? Yeah, well, sure. Okay, how many of you got an alarm at your house? Some of us. Do you use it every single time? I did until my mother-in-law moved in. She kept setting the damn thing off. But point is, we think we're more secure because of it. Are we? Hopefully. But what if you don't use it? Okay. Have you ever left your house and left the door unlocked? We all have. My biggest deal was we leave the garage doors open. Because you got those little sensors. So I pull into the garage, park the car. I'm walking into the house, I hit the button, the garage door starts to go down, I go in the house. I didn't realize the cat ran across it. Opens up. So now my garage door system, between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m., if the door's open for more than 20 minutes, it notifies me. Because we literally have cops come by my house at 3 in the morning. You know your garage door's open? Damn it. But encryption's the same way. If we use it, it gives us this sense of security, but it could be false. What if we're using a bad key? A weak key we learned about in DES last week, or, you just don't do it right, okay? So we must use it correctly. There's best practices, there's best protocols, which we're going to talk about some of those things. Okay. Now, performance, positively on your test. Guaranteed the slide is on there. Okay, delay time. So it says stream has less of a delay than stream block, which has less of a delay than block. Let me explain what that means. Say I'm sitting here typing, okay? With a stream cipher, every time I hit a letter, it gets encrypted, okay? So there's really no delay. As fast as I can type, it goes across. A block cipher, on the other hand, it has to wait until I type enough to fill an entire block, and then encrypts it and sends it. So you see why there's less of a delay with stream? Everybody see the difference? Yes.
What if it isn't enough for a block? Would it still take whatever it's
normally gets padded. Yeah, they normally get padded.
Oh, with X's and whatnot?
Yeah, yes, exactly. Okay, DES is a 64-bit block. How many bit key? 56, very good. All right, now DES gets split in half into 232s. Which half do we do stuff with? Right. And where does the next left come from?
The previous right.
Man, you guys learned something. Nice. That wasn't even in the book. Okay. So RSA is 100 to 200-bit blocks, shorter blocks with limited security, so they can be larger. Okay. Now, speed-wise, symmetric is always faster, up to 10,000 times. Think about it. If you got the same key, didn't you guys do the PGP? You did the PGP. I mean, those are some pretty big things. Going to encrypt with one, decrypt with the other. So symmetric's always faster. Hardware is always faster than software. And there's an example. So RSA, 220 kbits per second versus 0.5K. I mean, that's a big difference in speed. Or DES is 1.2 million bits per second compared to 400,000 software. So yeah, it's night and day difference between hardware and software. So if you can ever choose like a hardware firewall versus a software, always go with hardware. Okay. Block replay. Okay. What if I was to take, okay, here's a prime example. When I first took networking, way back before some of you were born, I was working on my first degree. There was a problem at an ATM. They caught this guy. He had captured the phone communication. The phone, because back then ATMs used to dial up to the bank. Okay, you put your card in, put your PIN in, tell you want money, and it would dial up. Then it would basically come back and do whatever. But this guy had captured the phone call and kept replaying it back to the ATM. And the only reason they caught him is he was standing there at the ATM with a bag, a brown paper bag, just filling it with money. Because he kept replaying the part of the transmission that said, give him money. Kind of funny. Well, block replay is a big issue. We don't want that to happen. we talked about last time about initialization vectors, which we can talk more about today. We don't want it where someone can take something and keep reusing it over and over and over. So we could, in here, they're showing you could potentially break it into blocks. We could change the amount. We could change the person, to Mr. Intruder. We could change values. So block replay, not a good thing. Block chaining. This is now where we add blocks together. So we take the results of the first block and XOR it with the second block. Then take the results of the second block and XOR it with the third block. So every block is somehow related to a prior block. Okay? That's what they talk about in encryption. You take your plain text 1, encrypt it with a key, we get our first ciphertext. Then we take our plain text 2, XOR with our first ciphertext, encrypt that, and get ciphertext 2, and so on and so forth. Okay? So each one is somehow related to the prior one. Okay? And you guys are going to get the very first actual lecture on blockchaining when we get to that assignment here in about 2 weeks. So, okay, blockchaining conceals identical blocks. So, again, everyone's linked to the other, so you really can't tell them separately. Only if a block is preceded by something unique. And in this example here, say we always preceded everything with the U.S. Army headquarters. Now, some of you watch Annotation Game, didn't you? You know how they found at the end there was always that same thing? Was it the weather or all high hood?
Weather and the animals in it with it.
Right. Since they knew that, they broke it down because they knew that last bit of text always ended to be Heil Hitler. So all they had to do was figure out what produced that, and then they could reverse engineer it, and it's pretty amazing stuff. Okay.
Is that the encryption?
Yes. Yeah. And there's actually another book, I think it's called Code Breakers, goes into really in depth on Bletchley Park and the Enigma machine and all that stuff. And it's, because they ended that book where he solved it. Remember that?
They mentioned it in.
Yeah, they do a little bit. But the thing is, they end the movie with you had one that worked. But they really made tons of them, and people would fight over them. Got to the point where no one would even work on encryption without one. If they tried them to do something without it, they're like, no, it's a waste of time. Because in the movie, they didn't want them to do it because it wasn't working, but then once it did, it's kind of funny, but yes, it's a really good book. Okay. OneWay Encryption. I think we already covered this somewhere when I showed you the picture of the car windshield. We encrypt something, we don't want to be able to decrypt it. It's like our Windows passwords are stored in non-reversible encryption with one-way function. That way, when we encrypt it, you can't go backwards with it. Okay. Cryptographic sealing. What if now, rather than secrecy, now we just want integrity. So we have our message. We're going to send the message in clear text. But if we make a hash of the message and send the message in clear text and the hash, now we can take the message, hash it again, and verify the message didn't change. Okay? Pretty easy to do. That's what digital signatures are. That's exactly what they are. Okay? So the cryptographic checksum could be the last block of the chain as encryption. Then we got through correctly. Okay? Authentication and timestamps. Okay? We got biometrics. It says face on it. It works in pitch black too. But the only bad part about it is when I do it in the middle of the night, I look at it, then all of a sudden my screen comes on white and about blinds me. It's like, ah. But yeah. Biometrics, decent, not great yet. Timestamps help us prevent replays, also gives us chronology of the order of events. Okay. And they must match. Active Directory has every system on an Active Directory network must be synchronized within 5 minutes. Did you know that? Yeah. It's kind of funny because I took care of St. Philip Neri Catholic School for years. And the guy that was buying my company, which he never ended up paying for it, took over and screwed up their network. And he wouldn't help them. And I didn't know what the password was. Well, luckily for us, one of the servers got off. In other words, the time was off. It was it was off by a whole bunch. So it was no longer synchronizing. And he had updated the password on the one that was up to date. Well, I take the one that was not up to date, and which still had the password in it. And there's an option called tombstoning in Windows. you can tell Windows, no, this is the correct one. So I was able to take that one, which was out of sync, and tell Active Directory that this is the one that has the correct time. Was able to overwrite all the credentials that the other guy had changed to, was able to get into the system. I couldn't believe it worked. I was like, wow. What it was is the CMOS battery had died, rebooted at one point, lost, set back to like some weird time. Then once I got them all synchronized, I just synced with the clocks. So yeah, timestamps, a big issue. And another thing I want to do with that clock, whatever the screen, you had the biggest issue with that thing not displaying. It worked, but then all of a sudden it go off sometimes. What it was is darn time on the Raspberry Pi. I had not set it up to connect to an NTP server, Network Time Protocol server, and the time was off. Because Raspberry Pis are notorious for not keeping good time. So when I set a schedule saying, show it on the screen from X time to X time, the clock's off, it was showing it at a different time. So time sense is a big deal for a lot of stuff. Okay. You need to know one of these. Honestly, I don't remember which one. So it's up to you. Okay? Yeah. Electronic codebook. Each block is encrypted individually. I'm pretty sure this one we already covered, but identical plain text produce identical ciphertext. I'm pretty sure this one we already covered in the other slides. So we have plain text encrypted with a key, we get a ciphertext. It's the same no matter what. They're not linked in any way. There's no chaining whatsoever. There's no initialization vector. Again, ECB, electronic codebook, the same plain text produces the same output, no chaining, none of that stuff, okay? Okay. Decrypt, there's encrypt, there's decrypt, you see it's basically backwards. Pretty easy to do. Cipher block chaining, now we're going to prevent block replay. It's self-healing, the algorithm helps solve that, but in here we actually chain the blocks together. This is the same slide you saw a few minutes ago, at least the encryption part. And here's a picture of it. We take our plain text, we XOR it with an initialization vector. That then gets encrypted with a key. We get our ciphertext. And that ciphertext becomes the next initialization vector for the next one. And that's XORed, okay? So think of cipher block chaining. Obviously, the blocks are chained together. Easy enough, okay? So cipher block chain, the blocks are chained together. Okay, and there's decryption. You'll notice that the initialization vector just goes to the bottom. Now, cipher feedback says the partial, it must be padded to be the right size, but let me show you the picture of this one. Got our initialization vector again, but we encrypt the initialization vector, then we XOR with the plain text, get our ciphertext. Now, ciphertext becomes the next thing to go into the top that gets encrypted, so it's a little bit different. Cipher feedback, think, when do you get feedback? After the fact? So we encrypt after the fact. I mean, we XOR after the fact. Okay? So if you look at this one here, sorry, this one, we actually XOR before the encryption. Feedback, we XOR after the encryption. So if you can think of feedback as you're getting feedback on something, so we're XORing after the fact. That's an easy way to remember that. Okay? But other than that, it's basically the same. Oh, did I go back? Yeah. And it says output feedback is similar to the other one, except that the main difference is where the XOR takes place. Okay. All right. Now you actually, let me show you that picture. There's that one there. Look at where the arrow comes off the bottom from the ciphertext. This comes off before it's XORed. So, okay. Yeah, it's XORed after, but still just where the next item comes from. Okay, that's the end of these slides.